Hello, 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 and welcome to Codependency Tough Love, Setting Healthy Boundaries. That's our subject today, setting healthy boundaries. My name is Dr. Yolanda Young Simmons, and I'm with Free and One Training Institute. I'll be your trainer today. And our goal at Free and One Training Institute is to make training available to everyone. Everyone. So we welcome you to become part of our team. If you're interested in having some online training, that's what we do. So just email us at freeonetraining@gmail.com and we could further that conversation. Today's subject, establishing healthy boundaries with others. We welcome you today to this presentation, establishing healthy boundaries, because boundaries are essential in creating a productive, respectful home environment and a social environment. Throughout this session, we will cover why it's important, why boundaries are so important. We will tell you how to set boundaries. We will discuss how to communicate those boundaries to others because boundaries are very important and we need to make sure that we have boundaries in our lives. It's very important. Let's talk about the definition of boundaries. Boundaries in a relationship are the limit and the rules we set for ourselves to define what's acceptable and what's not in our interaction with others. In other words, it's like having a manual that, like you would get from IKEA, and it tells you how to put this furniture together. Here's the manual. And so what boundaries does, it tells other people what your limits are and what's acceptable for you. And so you must define yourself. You must set your own boundaries. We protect ourselves and our relationship by setting boundaries with our friends, our family, and the boundary tells others how to best collaborate the relationship with us and clearly define those things that we value as boundaries. That line right there, yes, that's a boundary. That's a boundary line. Okay, the importance of healthy boundaries. Having instruction manual and putting things together is like the importance. You wouldn't be able to put it together. And once again, if you don't know what my boundaries are, you won't know how to interact with me. It's important to establish and maintain respect. You have to respect the integrity of other people and what they have, and that's why we have boundaries, so we know how to work harmoniously together. Establish and maintain good relationships. That's what having good boundaries are. Good relationships, we communicate that. And maintain ethical conduct. And the ethical part of conduct means that it protects you and the other person with what your integrity is, what you reflect as your moral standards. If you don't maintain boundaries, then you will have no moral standards. They don't understand what your standards would be. So you have to communicate what your boundaries are. The types of boundaries. Physical boundaries, that's your personal space. Your personal space is what you feel about where you live, where you work, or your environment, your personal space. And I think about the boundaries on the physical level when they had COVID, when the virus was really rampant, how people would sit a couple seats from each other because they wanted to respect COVID requirements and special as far as space was concerned, physical space. But it involves your home, your physical space in your home. What's your limits in your home? So there's physical boundaries. Also, there's emotional boundaries, things you share, things you want to offer support. So you have emotional boundaries. Some things you don't share with everybody. You have emotional boundaries. Also, you would have time boundaries, meaning that if you're the type of person that respect time and deadlines, then you would communicate to people that I have a boundary. I expect you to be on time, and I expect you to respect those deadlines. Okay, so the other one is respect. No, my house and my leadership. So you must respect the leadership of the house or the person who is in leadership, whether it's on your job, in the social environment, in their home, or whatever. You have respect. You have to respect not only your home, but others' home when you go to theirs. So understand that boundaries is a two-way street. You expect them to understand and you communicate your boundaries, and also you respect their boundaries. So don't take it for granted that others don't have boundaries. But it's important that we understand that there's a physical, emotional, time, and respect that we offer each person. We want to adhere to the boundaries they've set in those different areas of their lives. Effective ways to communicate, these strategies to communicate boundaries. Think first before you speak about what makes you uncomfortable. You can't go in there nagging or complaining about, I don't like the way you sit in that couch, or why do you sit in that couch? My boundary is I don't want anybody to sit on that couch. Anyway, that's the physical space. You don't make whatever makes you uncomfortable, you think about it first. You decide what your boundaries are. And also, you communicate it at the right time. You don't communicate your boundaries at the wrong time because then you won't have a cohesive relationship. And practice compassion when you're communicating something you disagree with. We have to practice, we say tough love, but we tough love with compassion. So I want each and every one of you to understand that as we practice any elements of tough love and our strategies to communicate with others, we do it in love. We do it with compassion to others. And we do it understanding that we clearly express our values and our preferences. Because the goal is that you will set healthy boundaries that will work for you. Because a lot of times, I'm going to read from my book here, and I want to read just a definition that about enabling, what enabling is. A person who supplies the means, the resources, or the opportunity that makes another person avoid responsibility. So if you are enabling somebody, you have not set, and then a lot of times you have not set boundaries because you might be discomfort, you might be uncomfortable about a situation, but you never communicated what your boundaries were, or your boundaries continue to be flexible. You didn't clearly express what your values were or your preferences. So a boundary that's set, it is set by you first. You set that boundary for your family, for your loved one, for your relationships. Reevaluate your control issues. Codependents have a difficult time reevaluating their control issues. You have to have clear communication. You also must. Do you need to be needed? Is that why? Look at the person juggling everything. Do they need to be needed? And are these control issues affecting what your boundaries would look like? Do you respect others and their limit? If you don't respect your own boundaries, when somebody else have boundaries, you may not even know what that looks like or how to accept that, but you must accept. We have to learn to say no, and codependents will have a difficult time saying no. I'm a codependent in recovery, and I know that I'm still practicing my recovery process on a day-to-day basis. And when I say that, a codependent want to help. You want to fix another person. Because of my control issues, I'm just trying to put it together. And when I try to put it together, I'm enabling somebody. That means I'm not respecting their limits because I'm creating a very entangled relationship that's not true to form. What happens is that when we have our healthy boundaries and they have the healthy boundaries, it's all respect. We respect one another's healthy boundaries, and it allows them to be in control of their own lives because a codependent should not be in control of somebody else's life. It just shouldn't be. Boundaries with loved ones. That is so important that we have boundaries. We're not a money tree. We have to trust our loved ones will be okay. We trust that God is in control. We're not in control. God is in control. So once again, and my husband always say, take your God shoes off. Take your God shoes off because you are not in control of anything. Trust God, and God will make sure that everything will be all right. Also, you have to allow the consequences of their actions. When I talked about the codependent enabling, the part in some cases, the enabler make it easy for the person not allow the consequences of their actions to occur. If they don't have the consequences for their actions, they'll never learn. You had to learn consequences. If you do something, there's a consequence to it, whether it's good or bad. But what a codependent does without boundaries, we go in and we continue to rescue, we continue to fix, and that is not a healthy boundary to have for anyone. So it's important that we don't get overly involved in somebody else's life and we don't have time for ourselves, because it is a risk that when we have flexible boundaries, we are at risk that we're not taking care of ourselves. We're not a money tree. See that tree? We are not a money tree. Nobody should have the consequences for somebody else. You should not suffer in quiet pain that there's a situation that's happening in your house or in your home because there's no boundaries. It's hard to do, but with consistently doing your boundaries, first establishing what they are and consistently communicating what those boundaries are, even if it hurts. Yes, it's hard and it hurts. It's hard and it's hurt, but you can do it. You can do it. You can create healthy boundaries for your loved ones. Well, some of the key points I want you to understand today is to practice, practice, practice. Practice healthy boundaries on a regular basis. Don't be flexible with your boundaries. Do what your limit is, only do your limit. Don't control. Always communicate with love, compassion, and mutual respect to the loved one that you are talking to, or you're letting them know what your boundaries are. Also, have some self care. Make sure you take care of yourself first, because you know what they do on the airplane? They always say if the plane is going down, you put the mask on yourself first. So take care of yourself first. If you can take care of yourself first, then you will that will be the beginning of establishing boundaries. You can say every Monday I go to swim. I don't know. Whatever you want to do for self-care, just do it. And don't be flexible with it. Be firm with it. In other words, that's not a day you can babysit, because you can't babysit somebody else's child. That's your self-care day. Don't be flexible with your self-care. Make yourself a priority. And then when you do that, God's going to honor you. He's going to honor you because he wants you to take your God shoes off. You're not in control of anything. I want to thank you for letting me share. I want to let you know I do have books available. Understanding Codependency, they're on Amazon.com. And if you have any questions or need any more information, like I said, I'm Dr. Simmons. My email is fnotraining@gmail.com. And I'd like to talk more about this subject. And I also want you to get our information on our group, our support group meetings. We have it on Monday and Fridays, and you can get that information if you log into freeand1-n-one.org. You'll find more about our Tough Love classes. And in our Tough Love classes, our Tough Love is a support group, actually. And in that support group, you will learn about boundaries and self-care. Do something for yourself. You deserve it. You truly deserve it. And so I'd like to thank you so much for joining us today. And I believe that there's something wonderful in store for you. I believe that God uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. And I believe you may be that one extraordinary person. So God bless you and thank you for letting me be of service.